All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We have 38 participants. Tonight, we have Natalie Rivero, our top producer of 2015, 2016, our manager of Pembroke Pines, a very selfless individual. I don't want to keep on saying things because her head is probably already too big after all of that. No, but very near and dear to the Lifestyle family. She's one of the original gangsters. She's been kicking butt. She's been leading. She's done trainings, and she's somebody if you want to learn from on the buy side and even on the sell side. But today's going to be on the buy side. You want to learn from. We're going to talk about how her process is of qualifying the client. Getting her pre-qualified. We'll have Kevin, our preferred lender with PRMG. Natalie will show you quickly on the MLS, like what she asked, so she can narrow down her search criteria on the MLS. So she's not showing a billion houses. We'll show a little bit of form simplicity. She'll send out, she'll remind you how she sends out her contract deadlines. We'll have New World chime in about the escrow management, the inspection, appraisals, loan commitments, setting up for the closing table, and what Natalie does for the post-closing. So Natalie, a little bit about yourself. Just tell us about, how you got into the business and how you were able to grow in this business and become a top producer in your first year in this business.
So a little bit about myself. I was a paralegal before I got into real estate. I was a paralegal for 8 years. Some of you have heard my story already. I never thought I could be a salesperson. I'm not a pushy person. I was not, I didn't like salespeople. And thanks to Mr. Kevin, who is on the call, who pushed me for 2 years to get my license. I decided to get my license, and honestly, definitely the best thing I ever did, because there was no turning back after that. I got my license. I was still working. I closed my first deal within, I guess, the first 30, 45 days after getting my license. Quit my job, took the leap of faith, and figured that'll hold me for a few months. And if that didn't work out, then I would go back to working full time. And thankfully, it did work out. And I've been with Lifestyle ever since.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And one of the things that I love about this kind of training and interview style is Natalie, a lot of people here that are in this chat, and I've seen them come in, and I know, thankfully, a lot of people, you guys have shared your story with me. I mean, a lot of the times it's private. One of the things that a lot of people I've seen in this call is they all want to, some of them are doing it full time and they want to make sure they're kicking ass in full time. But what was the fear factor for you to leave the part time world and to do this full time? What was that X factor? That's what a lot of people on this call would love to do, and I could visually see them. What was that? What was that little?
So the biggest fear, obviously, was getting used to not having a paycheck every 2 weeks. Learning to have to budget yourself and not go out and spend all the money that you make. It's a work in progress, guys. I'm still working on it. But it was definitely, it's not only the not getting paid every 2 weeks, it's also a big change in mindset, because we're working a full-time normal 9 to 5. You could prop up your feet one day and not work. Now you have to think that one day that you propped up your feet and didn't work, that there were possibly a ton of lost opportunities. So it comes with a definite huge shift in mindset.
Okay, and what was the fear factor? Just the final, what changed it?
Just
Where you got
financial.
when
Financial was the biggest fear factor.
And I think something that helped you, and it's one of the things that I try to tell everybody that wants to do this leap or wants to even become more of a tactician and do this even more with no fear, I think was lining up the first couple deals. So you had your pipeline where, explain that.
So thankfully, I was blessed that my first deal was actually a friend of mine. Her brother was looking for a house, and she told him to hold off until I got licensed. And so he waited. I got licensed, and he was my first deal. And showed him 2 houses, liked one, put in an offer, and it was great. Not every deal is like that. I learned that shortly after. But I didn't close anything for about 2 months after that, where you get nervous and you don't know what's going on and you're new in the business. So, having to line up, other deals after is the struggle, especially when you're new and, you're new and you don't know how to do that. For me, it was literally all social media mostly, and a little bit of Zillow too, that helped me, get my next few deals in the pipe.
I love it. And I just wanted to touch quickly on the mindset of it. You're sharing your screen, Natalie?
No, I haven't touched anything.
Okay, there you go. So I think somebody might have done that.
Oh.
So let's get into it. And so that's the mindset. But I'm so grateful for Natalie being here because she's always a great testimonial. And I share her story a lot. And you know, a lot of people get into this business, and even veterans that don't have the consistency yet, which you've already shown month in, month out. And sometimes we need a kick in the butt to kind of remind us about consistency, because this business allows you to backpedal if you're not consistent and you don't keep your pipeline full. So Natalie, let's just start. First thing, let's say your client is John Smith. You got it through social media, your circle of influence on your phone. How do you take that client from inception?
So I'm glad you said that, because I do get most of my business from social media. The moment I have someone, for example, I had someone who actually sent me a message today on social media. A lot of people, I know other agents that will send or will ask qualifying questions. I know Natalie Garcia is one that will ask 3 important questions. And I say it because it works for her. She does that before she sends it to the lender, and she'll ask what their estimated credit score is, if they have money saved, and if they've been in their job for 2 consecutive years. I do it a little bit different. I basically use an indoctrination phase. So I tell my clients what their expectations should be of me and what mine is of theirs. I tell them how I work. I tell them, how every realtor has access to the same properties. I build that relationship in the beginning to make sure that they're not going to shop me around and that they're not going to leave me for another realtor. I have a few laughs, I kind of joke around a little bit, but I give them not an overwhelming amount of information, but enough information where they build that, I build that trust with them. And then I'll send them off to get pre-approved. A lot of times I'll tell them, if they have no one in mind to get pre-approved by, I pitch my team, and my team is always, Kevin from PRMG, he's awesome. I send him all my deals, definitely they're on top of things, blah, blah, blah. I pitch it all the way. I like to tell them, exactly how the process will be from start to finish, and what my job responsibilities are as far as negotiations, helping them with inspection, helping them once appraisal comes in. I let them know everything ahead of time. And I think one of the key things that I tell them always is, don't worry, I'll hold your hand. You'll know what's going to happen before it happens. So in saying all of that, they feel at ease. So I think that that's one of the big reasons why I'm successful with buyers.
And then before I jump into the getting a client qualified, I had a question asked the other day. Do you get your clients on a buyer brokerage agreement? And explain it to, and if you do or you don't, why you don't?
So I don't. And the simple reason I don't is because if I'm not giving you the service that you feel you should be receiving, then you should be able to leave to someone else. You shouldn't have to be locked into someone that you don't want to work with.
I agree. And sorry, Nadia, I cut you off there. But go ahead.
No, I don't feel like you should be forced to do business with anyone.
I agree with you, and I hardly do it myself. I told the person, if you have to worry about this person jumping your fence and trying to go to somebody else, you only have so much time in the day, and if you're working your butt off, you're gonna have enough quality buyers that you don't need to settle for the bottom of the pile. You're gonna have a lot better buyers to work with that you don't have to worry about that. So that's why I haven't done it myself either. And I could tell you, with all the agents that we have and all the years that we've been in business, even before Lifestyle, I've never seen somebody say, oh no, I had my buyer broker agreement and I got my commission. It's always, you're dealing with the bottom of the barrel. I mean, there could be exceptions, of course, and people in this chat could say, hey, I heard about this guy, or personally haven't, but I wouldn't waste my time with those kind of individuals. So right. That on that end. And I'm glad Kevin's on the call, and he's such an individual that, why we did the partnership with PRMG, and also myself getting my loan originator license and making sure Lifestyle had the quality first. And because Kevin has done a lot of loans, started with Natalie way back then, and he's done 70 plus loans with Lifestyle, and it just made sense. And without further ado, Mr. Kevin Jimeno, thank you for joining us. How are you doing it tonight?
I'm doing good, bro. You guys cut my gym session short, but I haven't taken a shower or anything like that because I wanted to make sure I was in time.
Kevin, listen, let's just say Natalie pre-qualified. Thank you for cutting your gym session shortly. Please, after the training, make sure you take a shower. But Natalie calls you, hey, I got John Doe. What are the steps that you do? What is important for the agents to know, for them not to waste their time, or for them to also be rest assured of what you're going to do at that point to simplify their lives and make sure that, the most important part is getting kind of qualified and making sure to let's just say Natalie know not to waste her time, or where to divert her energy to what type of home. What's your process and your mindset? What is it that you do?
Okay, the logo. What about the invoice?
We got somebody on.
I just muted Miguel.
All right. All good questions. I mean, I'm going to talk to the people just getting started in the business versus the people that already have a few deals on their belt. I think I would have two different approaches. If you're just getting in the business and you kind of want to learn everything you can so you feel more comfortable, I would do conference calls in the beginning when you're handing it off to the lender relationship, so that you can listen to the call and kind of be a fly on the wall and listen to the way that the conversation goes and the things that are being pointed out, because you pick up little tips and tricks, and then you pick up kind of the energy that the client has, and that's how you start to learn the process. But eventually, once you got a few deals under your belt, for example, Natalie, when she sends somebody over to us, she doesn't stay on the call. She's not concerned whatsoever. She's already off hunting for the next deal. She's letting her team do what they do best. Title on the title side, lending on the lending side, and then we all communicate to make sure we're all on the same page so that the client knows what's going on. From the qualifying perspective, I would say that the mindset and who you decide to partner with, both on title and on lender, and I'm sure Giovanna and Jen would agree, you kind of want the mindset of, I don't turn anybody down, nobody's a waste of time. For example, I had a conversation today with one of the agents that made the mistake and said, oh, you need to be at the same job for 2 years. That right there killed an opportunity where that information is partly correct, not 1,000% correct. So just like I'm not going to give my opinion even to this day, and I've done over 1,000 deals where I don't give my opinion on the contract because that's the area of your expertise. Even if I know the answer, I may say, listen, I think it was like this, but those things change all the time. Let me make sure you get your agent on the phone and clarify with them, and I hand the ball back to the professional in that department. If it's a title issue, I for sure do not get involved whatsoever. And I'll get Giovanna on the phone or get Jen on the phone or Vanessa and let them handle that situation so that you're not setting improper expectations. So in qualifying someone, you don't want to miss out on an opportunity, like, for example, that 2-year employment history. That's not true. They can switch jobs. They can get a better job. They can make more money. The only time it's an issue is if they switch from a W-2 income to a self-employed income, and then they don't have a 2-year history of being self-employed, whether it's their own company or 1099. So all those little finite details is what your expert on your team should know. And you learn along the way by doing deals and knowing why a lead can be done or cannot be done. But have that mindset. If your partner, if your title company, or if your lender, in my opinion, doesn't want to take on leads and tells you, if it's $120,000, don't even call me. It's a waste of time. Or, hey, if they tell you they have bad credit, don't waste your time. My suggestion is get a new partnership. You want someone that takes it all, that coaches it all, because you never know when the $150,000 condo refers you the boss that sends you the $700,000 lead because you guys did such a great job. And it happens to us all the time. And you kind of want that energy and that mindset on your team where we're here to teach, we're here to give, we're here to educate. And without that, oh, that's a waste of my time. So from that level of who do we qualify, come as fast as possible. I want my phone to ring all day, every day. And if they can't do it today, we'll coach them up and get them in the proper position, fix their title issues, fix their credit issues, fix whatever it takes to make the deal happen, whether it's 6 months, 6 weeks, or 3 years from now. Because at the end of the day, if you're planning to be in this business as long as we've been doing it, then you need a database with deals that are going to be ready now, tomorrow, and in the future.
All right. So thank you, Kevin, for elaborating on that. And, at that point, John Doe, you say you get them pre-qualified, you have all the tools that, are accessible, and we'll have a training on that and sent that video out. You send back Natalie, hey, this person's pre-qualified for this, they're strong, X, Y, Z. And the cool thing I love about Kevin and for you guys as well to maximize your time is just you hand it off, let Kevin worry about all that while you're, focusing on all your clients, multiple clients, hopefully at the same time. So you don't have to really get in there and ask for financials. The team would take care of that. Let's just fast forward to Natalie. You have the pre-approval letter. How do you move on now? And this is something for everybody in here to maximize your time, because you're dealing with multiple clients, multiple listings that you have to also work. How do you manage your time? How do you narrow down your MLS criteria? What are the things you make sure you do on the MLS?
All right. So first and foremost, listen to your clients. Okay. Because there's times that you guys are driving around your buyers for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and you're frustrated. They don't like any properties. They don't, and there's a frustration and you're wasting time. So obviously it comes with a little bit of experience. I've been able to pretty much narrow down my buyers to, if not the first time I take you out, the second time I take you out, I'm putting in a contract. Okay. And that's because I listen. I listen to what they're asking me for, and that's what I deliver. Okay. If they tell me I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, this obviously something that's realistic, and then I try to, if it's something that's outrageous, I try to show them what's in the market, and kind of gear them towards where they need to be. I don't try to show them things that they don't want. I tell them, make me a list of things that you absolutely need, that if you don't have them, they're a deal breaker. And make me a list of things that you just want. Okay, so you keep that list handy, and when you're walking through the property, the moment they tell you, oh, but this property doesn't have this, you remind them that's a want, not a need. But it has 1, 2, 3, 4 things that you said you needed. The buyer's process is very emotional. I've had clients that even cry on the phone. And especially women. And, I try to cater to the emotions. But at the same time, be realistic and show them like, this is what's available. This is what's in your budget, and by communicating back and forth, I've been able to do a really good job of giving them exactly what they want.
Okay. So, I was, that's perfect. And I thought, if anybody in the chat, I don't want to spend so much time on something that it might be, elementary. Let me know, anybody in the chat, right in there, if you want to see how Natalie, gets to the as-is contract and adds any addendums to Form Simplicity. I mean, if you don't know that, something that you should do the classes.
Sorry to cut you off. My internet's a little bit slow, so it might take me a little bit.
No, that's what I was going to say. Maybe nobody needs that. And if they do, I'll maybe do it after. So we're not spending too much time. You should know a little bit about Form Simplicity, so where it's at, to prepare that contract. We'll have Jen like Jen was already, Jen, I unmuted you. We'll have Jen, we'll do a contract class of, preparing an as is, and we'll do it on Zoom, and we'll explain form simplicity a little bit better. And James, I see your question. I'll do it after the training, just so we can record the most important part. Natalie, you search, you go on the MLS, you do your shorings, you go on form simplicity, you prepare the offer, you send out the offer with the attachments that are needed for that kind of property, HOA addendum, and then you get it accepted. What do you do at that point? For example, talk about your effective date, your loan commitment date, your contract deadlines. This is very key, everybody. Please explain that a little bit. Jen, if you want to chime in there after Natalie comes in, go ahead, Natalie. What do you do at that point, which is very key?
So, okay, so I have 2 emails set up that I literally copy paste. One email I send to the lender and the title agent, and they have all of the deadlines that, that we need to meet. The effective date, the date escrow is due, the inspection deadline, the loan commitment deadline, and the contract deadline, just so that everybody's on the same page. I attach contracts, I say, congratulations, everyone, we're under contract. Here are the following dates that, we have to abide by. And then obviously
why is it important? All that you said, why is that important?
By the way, I love that you do that. I love it.
Jen, tell us why important. Jen, guys, if you don't know, is our title company, in-house title company with New World Title. If you don't know her, she'll put her contact info in the chat, and she'll be sending emails. But Jen, why do you like that?
Because those deadlines are very important, and it's very good to have them, not just for yourself, but everybody on the same page. The most important part about this entire business is the communication once you're under contract. Between lender and listing agents and real buyers agents, everybody should be on the same page.
And then Natalie, talk to me about
George,
why is that effective date, loan commitment date, and what are you protecting?
So you protect the client's escrow. So violating the deadlines really puts your escrow at risk. Your client's escrow at risk, and you don't want to lose your client's escrow because that's a big problem. I don't know, George, you want to talk about the loan commitment and
the effective date, these are all important. The effective date, so you know what day it starts, so you know what day your inspection period is. You need to say, hey, let's just say today's the 27th. And we executed today, and we're like, hey guys, today's the 27th, our effective date is today. And then we'll do that class with Jen on a contract class. But for the veterans in here, the most important thing, we had an agent that lost did an extension of the closing date, but not the loan commitment date. It's such a big thing. And now there's a $10,000 lawsuit, our first lawsuit in 3 years that we're dealing with. So it's so key about it. Kevin, what's the important part of this loan commitment before I elaborate more on it? What the
it's actually the loan approval, not the loan commitment.
The loan approval date. So Kevin, elaborate.
The loan commitment date, which usually is around 30 to 45 days on a contract. If you leave it blank, it's along the ladder. Super aggressive listing agents will put it at 30 days or 21 days. I've even seen it. Super aggressive listing agents. That basically is the day that the lender has to at least have the file conditionally approved. And there's a technicality there simply because if the file was 100% approved, we'd have a schedule for closing. Like we'd have clear to close, ready to close. So usually by the time the loan commitment date on the contract comes up, it's a conditional approval that has been done, but of course there's usually a few more conditions, title conditions, insurance conditions, and a few credit conditions. And we're working to clear that to get the clear to close. But we'll issue a loan commitment, which essentially says they're approved for the loan, but we will put in there subject to, which kind of still protects if you guys have to take it to arbitration or court, depending on what you put on the contract. It'll be the document that'll come up and they will evaluate, well, the lender did disclose appraisal still has to be cleared, title still has to be cleared, and verification of employment still has to be cleared, for example. And that potentially could protect the escrow deposit should the seller challenge by saying, if you don't close for whatever reason, for example, on that particular situation, the verification of employment came back literally a week before closing, and the client had decided to take another job, didn't tell anybody, switched from a W-2 job to a 1099 job, which would get paid per client visit she did, and didn't tell anybody. That's a completely different industry, a completely different income, and that caused the loan to get denied. Even though originally there was a conditional approval and a loan commitment was sent out, luckily we covered it by putting verification of employment and final underwriting approval. That does not, we live in a country where anybody can sue anybody, and any seller can refuse to sign the release. And then at that point, title is essentially stuck in the middle because, Jen, I'm sure you could talk about this. You guys can't just
I have like two of them now.
So
Yeah.
the key point, guys, that make sure, and Francis is asking, how aggressive 21, 25, or 30, always put it the ladder. I mean, if you're going to lose a deal because somebody else is putting 20 or 25 or 30, of course do it, but then you make sure you send out those contract deadlines, you put Google alerts, you put stickies, you make sure that before that you talk to your lender, you tell Kevin, hey, I need to have this by then, and if I don't have it by then, I need to get an extension. It's a lot easier to ask for an extension once you're already, 20 days in there or 19 days in there, and say, hey, I need 10 more days. And that way they're already like, man, you know what? We've been on the contract for, 20 something days. Let's just give them an extension. And you got your foot in the door by getting the contract accepted. So that's an advanced technique. Hey, get the contract accepted, ask for the extension down the road. They don't want to start all over, put it active and start looking. They'd rather deal with you. So keynote, take away from this, put as many days as possible, leave it blank. Or if you don't put 45, leave it blank better. I like to do because you sneak it in there pretty much. But don't put 21 days. Try to just lock if you need to do it, but just make sure you put the notes. Make sure you make that deadline.
George, there another bad habit that I see, and this is agents across the board. Hopefully, nobody from Lifestyle, right? But you get a super aggressive contract. You got to do what you got to do, right? You get a condo, which needs a full association approval. 30-day closing, and which is super aggressive, and you put a 21-day loan commitment. You call me, you tell me, hey, it's the only way we were going to get this approved. Like George said, fine. As long as we know we're probably going to have to negotiate an extension, especially if the association doesn't cooperate to get everything approved in time, we're on the same page, go for it. The bad habit that I see, and please guys, be on top of your client. Don't hold that contract for 3, 4, 5 days and don't get it to us and don't start the ball rolling, because if you're only giving me 21 days to get a loan approval and 30 days to close this, those 4 or 5 days is super vital. If I don't have those 4 or 5 days, and if you're not on your clients, letting them know they better be signing that application within 24 hours of executed contract. That way we're ordering title, we're ordering appraisal, we're ordering verifications of employment, especially if there's an association involved. We're getting everything to them so that they can run their approval system. You're cutting out a week out of 4 weeks. So now you're asking me to make magic in 3 weeks. And I have to have a loan approval in 2 weeks. Like, anything goes wrong, we have a slim margin of error. And a lot of it is just because, oh yeah, I got the executed contract, I'll send it to you, or I forgot to get one addendum signed, and oh, my client's gonna go and, go on vacation for the weekend and come back next Wednesday, and then they'll sign everything with you. That right there kills us every single time.
Yeah, the first thing that you should be doing as soon as you get the contract is sending it to the title company and the lender immediately. We order title and lien search right away, but even the lien search that comes from the city, depending on the municipality, it could take sometimes 25 days.
Another thing that I like to do on that email that I send the deadlines is put everyone's information on there. So title has lender's information, lender has title, everyone has the listing agent's information. That way there is, everyone knows who to contact for what. There's no running around later asking for information. Plus, it's a headache for me later.
And what we'll do to everybody at the end of this training, I'll have everybody put their emails that was here, and then once your sample, contract deadline, and I'm gonna plug in a free book and stuff like that, guys. So I'm gonna send you a lot of correspondence, but make sure not yet. Don't put it in the chat. We'll do that at the end. All right. So we got that email sent out, contract deadline sent out to everybody. You already, next thing is, on the contract, you said you're gonna have escrow within 3 days. What do you do when you call Jen or you tell Vanessa at Newer? Jen, what do you want when the agent has a contract executed? Natalie, what do you normally send? Like both of you guys. What you want the executed contract?
I want that. No, exactly what Natalie said. That would be perfect, but it never happens that way. But yes, if we had the contract with everyone's contact information, like emails, because I like to turn in the contract with both realtors. If the lender is involved, I like to reach out to the lenders. Sometimes they need a pre-CD. I like to get that to them right away, because if not, that holds up the application. I don't want to be a delay in the process at all. So once we get the file in our office, we open it immediately. It gets assigned to the processor, which is Vanessa, and she sends out a welcome email with like an information sheet. Those information sheets are so vital that we need them, because they're going to give us payoff information. If there's a mortgage order payoff, they're going to give us if they're single, if they're married, how they want to hold title. There's a bunch of information there that we need, what the commission is, all that. So when we're preparing paperwork, we have all the information that we need, and we can just prepare everything for closing when it's time to close.
All right, perfect. Okay, so then Jen will send, Natalie the escrow letter. Natalie will send it to the listing agent. Guys, this is important.
Let me say something about the escrow letters.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, by contract, if you leave a bank, you have 3 days to give escrow. Okay, if the third day lands on a weekend or a holiday, you have the following Monday to give the escrow. You give the escrow, we give you an escrow letter. Technically, you can accept personal check, cashier check, and money order. Absolutely no cash. You'd be surprised how many people show up with cash. I don't know. I know cash is key.
Mahalia people.
Huh?
Mahalia peeps.
Listen, I had a closing one time. The guy showed up with $19,000 in a briefcase. Yes, I got stories.
And really quick, just to build on what Jen said about the seller sheets or the buyer sheets, the information sheets. A lot of times you send these over to your clients and they'll take 3, 4, 5 days to get these things filled out. If you can get that information yourself and fill it out yourself and then send it back to title to kind of make the process go by faster, I've done it. So for them not, I have to be chasing my client forever to fill it out.
And sometimes too, like if the lender needs a bank statement or a pay stub, sometimes borrowers will take, I'm sure Kevin will attest to this, you ask him for a pay stub or a bank statement and they take a week to give it to you. And then he still has to put it together, send it in to underwriting, and all that's a process. So the faster everybody has all the paperwork, the better.
All right, so
it's a team effort.
It's definitely a team effort, with yourself, title, and mortgage, and everybody else that comes into play with it. Make sure also it's important on these contracts. If you get a deal accepted, and let's just say you get a great offer, a great property, and it's a very demanding property, you got to make sure you send that escrow letter. If you don't send that escrow letter within those 3 days, your contract is void. You'll lose potentially that deal, and your client will. So you got to make sure from the get-go, you get that contract executed, you send your deadlines, you reach out to title, you reach out to mortgage, you reach out to the client, and you start working. The faster you could close, the better it is. So many things can happen. The house gets on fire. They lose their job. They get fired. The faster you do this, the better it is for you. So make sure you're on that. Okay, you got the escrow letter. Jen, if at this point you got to go, I know you had mentioned you had to go. I think this is something that we're probably like 70% done. Natalie, you got the escrow in there. What is the next thing you do with like the inspection? How do you prepare your client?
So, the same way I send the lender, title, and everybody an email, I send my client a congratulatory email. I send them an email attaching the executed contract, same deadlines that I send everyone else. I send them as well so that they know, that we are on deadlines. Like we have to comply with these deadlines. There's a little paragraph that I type in about how, meeting these deadlines are key to getting this done as smooth as possible. And then I also provide them with everyone's information, title, lender, obviously not the listing agent. They don't need to speak to them. And then I give them a recommendation of 2 or 3 inspectors that I've worked with. We've had other agents that, have had situations where something in the inspection goes wrong and they're like, well, you recommended this person to me. No, I gave you an option of 3 people and you chose that person. I recommended 3 that I've worked with, but you chose that one. I never said, don't let it fall on you. So I recommend 3. I let them choose. I kind of gear towards the person. Sometimes I set it up for them, just so that the process goes by faster. When it's a stranger, I tend to let them set it up themselves. And I stay on top of them and follow up as much as I can. But most of my clients have really been a lot of, friends, my circle and stuff like that. And for those, I've also set it up for them. With that being said, I just saw somebody's question, Francis. I also, after all of that's done, I make sure you save your executed contract, all your documents to your drive, update your CRM, Francis. And so, yeah, I send that out to them and then start working towards inspection. Inspection day, it's set up, inspection date comes. Sometimes your client wants to come. Sometimes they don't want to come, and that's okay.
That was my next question. So people ask a lot, do you go to your inspections?
I go to every inspection.
Perfect.
Like I want my client to see that I'm working for them. So I try to go to everything, inspection, appraisal. I just had a certificate of reoccupancy that I had to do get an inspection of the house. I was the one who was present, not the client.
Okay. One key note here is always big. Make sure, pro tip, and I'm sure everybody's probably had this issue, and I hope not. When you go to the appraisal and when you send the as-is, make sure, and the as-is, it doesn't guarantee the washer or dryer. Make sure you make note of that. And if at the appraisal, at the inspection, say, hey, this is the washer and dryer, take pictures of the serial numbers of the washer and dryer. Because if you put washer and dryer and you don't put a serial number or the type, they could put in a $50 broken washer and dryer. So make sure you make note of that. That's just something I thought of right now. Inspection is done. Kevin, how do you get to the appraisal part? Is the client setting it up? How are you setting it up? I know you're calling the listing agent to set up the date. Talk to us on that, the appraisal, after we get the inspection done.
Yeah, the appraisal and title, everything that's super time sensitive is done within 24 hours of the client signing the application. We can't order appraisal until the client signs the application, number 1, giving us authorization. And number 2, they got to give us the payment, credit card or whatnot that they plan to pay for the appraisal. They cannot pick the appraisal. The lender has to pick it. And the way it works is it works on a round robin system. Back in the day, I was able to pick my appraiser. So you would always pick the person who was your go-to and had a great relationship with. Now we have a group of those guys that we all know, and they're the ones that are approved. So we handpick the ones that are approved, but we don't know if Natalie or George's or Francis' contract is going to specifically go to Dennis, for example. Why? Because that's a conflict of interest that they decided when the market crashed back in 2008 to eliminate it. So now it goes through a system, a third-party vendor takes the order and spits it out round robin to one of the approved appraisers. We usually put the listing agent as the point of contact unless you guys request otherwise. There are some buyer's agents that want to handle it for whatever reason, because either the listing agent will be unavailable or because the listing agent is a mission to get a hold of. So whatever, if that happens by, usually it's always the listing agent. But if you can tell us by the time you get an executed contract and the client fills the application out that you want to be the point of contact, let us know. Put it in writing as well. Just a reminder, because sometimes it gets lost in translation. You tell me, but I don't get around to telling the processor in time. They work on it so fast, get it out the door because they know that's one of the most important pieces. And then the listing agent is the point of contact. And then you were like, hey, I already told you so. I would suggest best practices: text, voicemail, and email. Hey, just a reminder, recap of what we talked about. Make me the point of contact. But you don't have to be. This just depends how good your listing agent is and how attentive they are. 9 out of 10 times it's the listing agent. And then that usually takes about a week for it to be done and completed, unless for whatever reason they make an appointment further out. But usually the appraiser will make an appointment within 24 hours of getting the request, accepting the request, and they know that they got to make the appointment and get the report to us by the following week.
All right, so we got that. We got the appraisal. It comes in. Francis had a question. Natalie, go ahead. You can answer that.
All right, so appraisal happens. You cross your fingers, hope and pray that it appraises, so that there's no situation. But in a lot of cases, it doesn't happen that way, and a lot of times appraisal will come in lower. So us as buyer agents have to put our aggressive pants on and call the listing agent and let them know, hey, let's say list price was $300 and appraised for $290, whatever. Hey, listen, so-and-so, this appraised for $290. What are we going to do about this? My client doesn't have a penny more to come out of pocket. This is all they have. Even if your client's telling you, listen, I have the $10,000. I really want the house. You're going to say that they don't have the money. Okay. You don't have the money. You don't have, they don't have the money at all. They don't have an extra penny. So, the back and forth, hopefully the seller agrees. If they don't, you continue negotiating up until the point that you almost threaten that you're going to cancel the contract. You're going to have your client sign the cancellation and send it. Okay. If at that point they still don't come down to what you want, then then you go ahead and now all of a sudden your client had an abuela that lent her $5,000 to close on this deal. And you try to work for your client's best interest. And I use this a lot. A lot of you guys that have been to my trainings have heard me use the attorney stuff. I come from, the legal field, but you represent your client's benefits to the 100%, same way an attorney represents whoever they're representing to their full power. Man, I'm gonna be putting this on on my YouTube channel. You're giving away the secret. So if any of the clients you have a contract with, they're gonna know that tactic. So it's not gonna away too much stuff on the YouTube.
I know you're getting them referrals with that kind of stuff. They're like, my realtor's the shit. I know it, made up an abuela, the whole nine.
Oh man,
so you guys know my secret.
We'll set up a private. We'll set up a private tips and tricks round table. Hey, and that one, of course, I won't record. Except for the external stuff. This is good for all agents to see. We'll keep that more internal for lifestyle. So we'll do that soon. These trainings are awesome. I think we had at 1.49 individuals, so it's awesome. And we're gonna record this and upload this on YouTube. Okay, let's just say everything is good, clear to close. Kevin gives you a clear to close. How are you setting up your closing? How are you doing your walkthrough? And you're not even gonna answer this. Everybody's going to their closing. There's no do I have to go to clear? You're going to your closing. How do you go from there, Natalie? You're setting up closing. What do you do? So
Kevin gives me the green light and tells me we're clear to close. I do my little victory dance. So pretty much I just make sure, I think title for the most part has done a good job of giving, closing dates and setting up times and all of that with my clients. I've never had to set up, closing time or any of that. They've done that for me.
No, your title company should always set up
Yeah.
closing time. Because
Yeah,
they're the ones that know when they have availability. You don't want clients
Right.
waiting on the table. But luckily, we know ahead of time.
right.
Close.
Right. So I pretty much schedule the walkthrough. I get times from everyone, make sure everyone's available. I tend to like to do it maybe at 2 hours or right before we have to be at the closing table. So everything happens back to back to back. Obviously depending on your client's availability and the listing agent's availability. I know that some people like to do, use that walkthrough sheet. I just tell my client, look around, make sure that everything is in the same fashion that we found it or that we saw it when we first saw the property. For the most part, I've been successful with that. And then it's straight to closing. I like to get my client a little closing gift. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that.
It's a $50 max, right, Kevin?
It's a $50 max gift, guys. And then nothing, go to the closing table, take pictures, all of that. Us at the closing table, we really just, sit there and let title do their job. Do what they do best.
Another tip, guys, of course, go to the, you're hopefully making, tens of thousands, at least, 6 to 20 to 30, whatever your closing is. Man, take the time to go to this closing. I won't accept you not going to this closing. It's a great, they've trusted you in the biggest purchase of their life and you're going to leave them at the finish line. That is completely bogus. You can't do that. Second, the biggest thing about this is the marketing angle of it. You can post, Francis, you could do a closing and you freaking Natalie or anybody, you put a posting, just close of a house. Nobody cares of seeing a house that says sold on it. You show a family that you helped them, that they trusted you, hugging you, smile on their face, a bottle of champagne, of wine. People remember people, not a house.
Not only that, it's a total picture op, and they're going to put that on their social media and tag their realtor and give you a shout out. That's Definitely. The best marketing right there. That's like a testimonial pretty much.
Joanna's going to put you on social media. Lifestyle's going to put you on social media. The client's going to put you on social media. It's the chance to ask them for that referral right then and there. They're going to remember about that point for the rest of their lives. It's something that you got to make sure you're there. That's going to be ingrained in their life. So you make sure you're there. I don't care where you're coming from. You get there early. You get there first. You talk to a title rep, and you make sure everything is ready. You don't want any hidden surprises, so make sure you're there. Okay.
George, I got a realtor that's got hundreds of reviews, and the way he does it is he shows up to the closing table, and while there's downtime, that title's making copies or prepping or whatnot, he's actually sitting there creating a Zillow profile, and literally as soon as they're happy and they're done, he's turning his laptop, and right there on the spot, he's asking them if it's cool for them to write down a quick review because he's about to do a big marketing campaign. And
that's genius.
I like that, for real.
Has to chase them down for reviews. Natalie, how long does it take you to get a review?
A lot. I hound them.
I like that. And that actually funny because what I'm going to do at the end of this chat is actually put the Lifestyle Facebook page and the Lifestyle Google page to have some reviews. So thank you. So Natalie, you close, you go shopping, you go buy some, Louis Vuittons or whatever the heck you buy, So what's your post-closing routine?
So I like to send a thank you note. I like to send an email with important things. Make sure you change your address for mail. Make sure, you hook up all the things that you need to hook up, electrical, water, all of that stuff. I send a handwritten thank you note to their house with 2 or 3 business cards in it. I also like to put on an Excel spreadsheet, which I have for my 2015, 16, and 17 clients, and now the ones that I closed for 18. I have the transaction, the names, the address, the date it closed, and my commission.
All right.
So I put the date that it closed as an anniversary on my calendar, so that every year I send them, a little something, just reminding them, hey, happy anniversary, first anniversary, second, whatever. Or I send them a text or give them a call.
All right. So guys, that's pretty, I mean, what I could add in is, make sure, we're going to have a pretty cool thing. We'll be announcing it pretty soon. I'm going to actually end the recording here.